she sort of continued that.
Whilst Britney has become a huge international star, she has never lost sight that her family are the bedrock of her strength. If her mother hadn't thrown caution to the wind and accompanied Britney to New York all those years back, she may well not have enjoyed the success she has had.
The support from Britney's family was nothing short of incredible. You hear a lot of stories about a family sacrificing to help their kid make it. Britney's family literally sacrificed. They spent everything they had, and a lot that they didn't have, to send her to performing camps, to get her lessons. Now you have to remember, this is a small town family with 3 kids, because she has an older brother and a younger sister. And they were spending all their money on Britney to the point where they drove themselves into bankruptcy. And these 3 kids, and it's ironic because the bankruptcy filing was right before Britney hit it big.
Britney's mother put her life on hold. And if Britney had an audition somewhere, like when Britney became a member of the Mickey Mouse Club, Walt Disney World, she was young, her mother was there for her all the time. Anything Britney has ever been involved in from a child, her mother has been by her side, 100%, not 110%.
But they lost land that they owned. They lost vehicles that they owned. And when I say lost, I mean the sheriff came to their house, repossessed their vehicle in front of the whole family, and then auctioned it off on the steps of the courthouse. All the kids knew about it. They had the authorities had to post notices in the local paper, so everyone in the town knew about it. You had to figure this was pretty humiliating for young kids. But this is what their family was going through in order to make Britney famous. And when Britney was about 17, they finally declared bankruptcy. So they really risked losing everything. And then, of course, the next year, Britney became a superstar, and they were saved, and the risk paid off. But imagine if it hadn't.
I think Lynn Spears has been a huge force in getting Britney to where she is today. Obviously, this is part of what Britney wanted as a child. She obviously lent towards singing or acting or wanting to be on the TV. But I don't think any child TV star gets to where they are without a kind of pushy mum behind them. And I think it's definitely fair to say that's true of Lynn Spears. We've heard lots of Britney's mum over the years, which is quite surprising, really. Britney's mum wrote a book, obviously riding on her daughter's success. You can't say that she would have done that and been successful if it wasn't for her very famous daughter. And it's also always been clear that, yeah, Britney has a very close relationship with her mother, but her mum's always been a very keen driving force. So on the days when I'm sure, where, like any teenager, Britney didn't want to get out of bed, it was probably her mum pulling her out of there. You're going to be a superstar, dear, get out of bed. And that's probably what forced her into the spotlight harder than we've seen anyone else forced. And I think you see that of all stars that have grown up in the limelight. Look at Michael Jackson. It was his father that drove him into the spotlight. You know, kids don't do these things on their own. They need a parent behind them who's going to get them there. So I'm sure Britney is ambitious, but I think her mum is very ambitious too.
Britney rocketed from pop starlet to megastar. She became an instant phenomenon across the world and was in demand from virtually every corner of the globe, which for a teenager must have proved an overwhelming experience.
Well, the arc of Britney's career has been, at first she was really just a little novelty. You know, this young girl from Louisiana, from our neighborhood essentially, that put out a record. And then it took off, and then she became this phenomenon. So it's, you know, then we started writing about Britney, the burgeoning pop star. It was such a rocket rise. I mean, from 0 to 60 in 2.2 seconds, and she was so young when it hit. You know, she'd had some sort of pop star training with the Mickey Mouse Club, and she certainly aspired to it. But I don't think anyone can really know what that's like until it happens. To have so much adulation and so much money, and to be, you know, the most searched name on the web, you know, to know that many people are out there trying to look at your pictures and find out details of your personal life. I mean, that's a heavy thing to deal with.
Kentwood has been extremely protective towards their pop princess over the past 5 years, while still enjoying the attention and interest that she has brought to this small town.
When Britney became famous, Kentwood was over the moon. I mean, this is a really small town where everyone knows each other. Britney, played with all the other kids throughout her childhood. And I think from when Britney was very young, there was always this sense among the other residents of Kentwood of, this is our girl. Like, they wanted her to be a superstar, and they wanted her since she was yay big to be a superstar. When she got the Mickey Mouse Club, the whole town just threw this incredible party for her. I mean, there were parades. Every storefront had, congratulations, Britney. The mayor wrote a proclamation and made it Britney Spears Day. These people were into Britney's success. In fact, they had a museum called the Kentwood Museum, which was mostly a museum dedicated to the town's World War II and World War I veterans. They changed that museum and gave at least half of that museum over to Britney and made it the Britney Spears Museum. So here you've got a museum dedicated to men who've died for their country. And they just said, we're going to take half of that and give that to Britney.
And also a reproduction of her childhood bedroom. Her family gave the museum all the original furniture, and it is recreated there, enshrined behind glass, and there's no picture taking. Kentwood's a pretty easygoing town, but probably the most strict rules are in that museum. And so that's probably the biggest destination in town, second to Britney's mansion.
I know that Britney is so proud of her hometown because she always mentions it. Wherever you go or whatever interview you're in, she's in, she is proud that she is from Kentwood. Kentwood is a very, very small town. Everybody knows everybody. And she made us proud to call Kentwood our home.
I think the folks in Kentwood are very protective of her. It's almost like sort of an expansion of the role Britney's mom plays in that this is their little girl who's gone off into the big bad world, and they still want to protect her. I mean, they still know her as the girl that popped into the local hamburger stand and went to the local schools and churches. I think maybe some elements of her image give some folks in Kentwood a little pause. Some of the racier photos that she's posed for and some of the videos, I'm sure, the preachers and such in Kentwood maybe would wish she'd wear a little more clothing from time to time. But as a whole, I think they still perceive her as their little girl that's gone on into the world and made good, and they're very